Time now for business here on France 24, which I'm joined by our business editor, Owen Fairclough. Hi, Owen. Starting off with all this morning's facts and figures and Spain's borrowing costs leaping yet again.
Up to nearly 7.7%, Chris, for the interest on 10-year borrowing. This is as high, I think, for any Eurozone country that's been forced into a bailout, with expectations now very high that Spain will need not just a bank bailout, but some sort of full sovereign rescue package as well. Those are the numbers there. You can see just shy of 7.7%. The markets are really completely deaf now to Eurozone leaders' speeches on this. We had the finance ministers of Spain and Germany meeting last night, with Spain trying to stress that it can meet its borrowing needs. Its public debt is comparatively low compared to other countries, and that's despite the fact that two regions now in Spain, Valencia and Catalonia, are now asking the government for millions in aid. Onto the European markets, a bit of a micro rally in Europe this morning, with the IBEX in Madrid up 0.3%. I think we've got a few problems getting the boards up, but I can tell you that the European markets are broadly up, just a fraction. Asian markets much more choppy. The Nikkei finishing the day 1.3% off, just the Shanghai Composite managing to find a few gains. The Nikkei has now lost 5% in almost as many days this month.
OK, and the top line here in France this morning, obviously these disappointing, to say the least, figures from Peugeot.
Much more disappointing than anybody thought they would be, Chris. In fact, 10 times worse than anybody thought they were going to be. Let's just get into those numbers on Peugeot Citroën. For the first half of this year, this company lost 800 million euros. That's compared to an 800 million euro profit just a year earlier. Now it's the automobile division with an operating loss of some 4 million euros. But you can see it has managed to claw back some of those losses, much worse than that this time last year. What partly explains the rally for Peugeot, with the shares opening up around 4%, is that Peugeot is putting a cost-cutting plan of 1.5 billion euros into effect, so investors will see some value in the company as a result of that. But it does go on to say that its European market will shrink by 8% over the course of this year.
OK, and cuts potential job losses at Peugeot. French President Francois Hollande, the socialist government, have promised to act against that. Where does this leave them?
Well, in fact, the French government is going to be meeting as well the heads of Peugeot. They really want the head of Renault. They want these companies, Renault, Peugeot, Citroën, to take some sort of state aid. But the figures in these results show that Peugeot is really going to fight its corner and say, we don't need jobs protecting in France, because all the action and all the growth is in emerging markets. In those figures, Peugeot Citroën says that growth in China will be around 7.5% this year. It's building a new factory there that will be capable of producing nearly 1 million cars by 2015. And the problem is, Francois Hollande wants to keep jobs in France. He says it's unacceptable for PSA to be cutting 8,000 jobs here. But they will simply argue that really their growth and their future lies overseas, not here in Europe.
OK, a couple more of the day's business headlines for you now, starting with Apple giving investors a rare disappointment in its latest figures. Second quarter income grew by 21% to nearly $9 billion, but that was the slowest growth in 2 years. The company blames the dip on consumers buying the cheapest version of the iPhone and iPad.
And Britain is likely to be stuck in recession as it hosts the Olympic Games. The government will publish its latest GDP figures later. They're expected to show a contraction of up to 0.5%. That's a third successive quarter of negative growth. Ministers say, however, the Games and their legacy will contribute £13 billion to the economy over the next 4 years. If you are watching us in London and you are either enjoying or hating the Olympics, do drop me a line on Twitter. You're probably aware, Chris, lots of employees are being encouraged to work from home to ease congestion on the London Underground during the course of the Games. That's bound to have an effect on GDP if people aren't buying their hot dogs or pasties even for their lunch in the UK. So if you think it's a good idea to work from home during the Olympics, drop me a line on Twitter at OwenFrance24.
I can confirm that the London Underground is congested at the best of times.
There you go.
Owen Fairclough, thanks very much for that round of the business news. More world news coming up very shortly here on France 24. Do stay tuned.